Today's gospel is part of the sermon that Jesus preached to his disciples on the eve of his passion. A few verses before, he promises them their full measure of persecution, expulsion from the synagogues, and violence as extreme as murder. No wonder that sorrow fills their heart, as the gospel says. But because I have spoken these things to you, sorrow has filled your heart. Now, during the 3 years of public life, they gathered comfort and courage from their words, from his words, from his miracles, from his company, his friendship. They had begun to feel that in his company they were secure against all the ills of life, including suffering, persecution, and death. So they felt they were part of this small circle where no human ills and death could never enter. Then he tells them that the world will let loose in his absence of all its fury and do them wrong, impossible while he was still with them. That's when everything changed within them, because they didn't know anything about the Holy Spirit. With Jesus at their side, they felt themselves a match for the world. With Jesus gone, they felt without hope. But their fears were vain and their sorrow was empty, because after Pentecost, after the Holy Spirit took up residence in their souls, they were capable of a heroism as never before. They left Judea for the four corners of the earth, and they were destined to fulfill their mission, even in the face of death. That's when they understood that Jesus in heaven is as strong to protect them and save them as Jesus was on earth when he was with them. That even though at times it seems that he goes away, he's never quite away from them. And this is the first thing we learn from this gospel today. When we are at our best, when we are actually tired from the struggle and ready to give up, Christ often seems to sleep, oblivious of our sad situation. But he is then nearer than we can imagine. He is within us with his grace and will lead us as he led his disciples through death to life, through sorrow to joy. So he hides himself at times, only to fill his disciples with a new longing for his presence. Because if we always experience his presence around us, we will never have the opportunity to practice the virtue of faith. And so the virtue of faith will never develop. And so we must imitate the apostles in this love for Jesus. It is the first step towards holiness and zeal. Love is the key to understand our lives close or away from the presence of Jesus. Because their love for Jesus was not like ours, an impersonal, abstract, divided sort of thing. And their love bore fruits, to which ours is an utter stranger. Because what do we do when we acknowledge that God seems to disappear from the horizon of our lives? What do we do? Do we grieve for his absence? What do we do, for example, when that absence is the consequence of mortal sin? Because Jesus can be away from us for two different reasons. The first one, so that we may practice our faith and increase our love for him and our longing to go to heaven. Or he can be absent through sin. Because sin always entails losing his presence in our soul. So if we loved him better, we know that we would do anything to stay away from sin and occasions of sin. Because nowadays, how many people do not even know what it means to lose Jesus through sin? They don't even care. They seem to belong, both body and soul, to the world. And as we know, the world is opposed to Christ. A man's case is hopeless when Jesus can slip away without awakening regret by his absence. And so people get used to the idea of the absence of God. Once that happens, then they make an idol either of themselves, of sin, or anything else. So let us renew today our devotion to Christ, our love for him. Let us deal better with temptation and sin, which are the only two things that can separate us from God, as grace is the only thing that keeps us united